Good morning and welcome to, it's not morning here, but I just said that. Welcome to week 5 of the fall term, Composition 123. You've made it halfway. You're going to keep going, and we're going to try to get all through this. But congratulations, and it's only 5 weeks from here, and then you have to turn in your final paper. Let me clarify your final paper because I was confused about it. The FUSE paper goes to the university. The FUSE paper, I didn't look up what that stands for. But so after you turn it in to me, you need to turn it also into the university, and I'll post instructions for that. But that is a paper that you are not identified on. You're going to take out your name and your topic, and I think only your student number will identify you. But the university doesn't use it to grade you. The FUSE part of your final goes to the university so that they can have information for SOU's accreditation. So when you send those in, they're going to use that as the early part of your education and as the early part of your writing skills, and compare it to other people and mix it in, and then compare it with other people who write in their senior year, so we can see how far in general the people have gotten, that students have gotten for our accreditation. For me, you're going to be turning it in through Moodle, and I will be grading it, and then I will be adding that to all your other grades and give you a final grade. So there's no real rush to change your thesis if you've already done it, and I've said no, you need to redo this to some other kind of thesis. Don't worry about that. Just write your paper. I will be commenting on your theses early this week. I'll be sending you individual emails saying this works or it doesn't work. So be looking forward to that. And also, I am going to be sending you out a link to an advising schedule, because all of you need to be advised before you can register for other classes. So that's really important. And you just need to make a sign up on the sheet with me, and then at the bottom of all my emails, there's a link to my Zoom meeting that you can click on to get to it when it's time, and I will just let you in. It's mostly in the afternoon, but you'll see it on the schedule. If you can't make any of those, please contact me, because I do have other times I can meet with you. I would just rather keep it to afternoon schedule, because it's going to be a lot of meetings. Okay, you're only going to go to one of them though. That's where I'll bring up your degree works, and we'll look at where you're at and where you want to go next. If you have another advisor who is already, and you're already registered for your classes next week, please just drop me a line that you did not need me to. The primary function of what I do is take off your hold. Okay, and I hold you ransom at our meeting until the end of the meeting, so that you can register for your next class. If you're a junior or senior, you should register earlier, or if you're an honors college, or if you, I think they have their own foundations, but if you are one of those elite that gets to register on the first day, sign up early. And if you are, I think they start on November 1st, but I'm not positive, so check the registration schedule for next term to see where you are, and make sure you get your advising in before that. And once I clear you of the hold, that clears you automatically, and you can register for classes whenever you want. Okay, that's coming up in an email for you. So I read all of your literary comparisons between part 1 and part 2, and I think some of you got a little bit confused. Some of you did wonderfully. I want to clarify some things. When you write an essay, you need to have an introductory paragraph that tells the reader what they're going to be reading, why it's important, and whatever background information that the reader needs to understand what you're about to explain to them. I got a lot of people who wrote a thesis sentence and then went right into the argument with no change of paragraphing or anything else. Each section of your paper has to start a new paragraph. So if you start to talk about part one, then you need to do a new paragraph. Paragraphs do not need to be double spaced. You don't need to put more space between them between lines. You do need to indent 5 characters. If your last line ends halfway through the line and you begin again and you're all the way to your margin, you've done it wrong. You need to go back and click on and make it move 5 spaces over, and then continue with the next thing, with the next idea. So that kind of affected a lot of your grades. Introduction first, with the thesis in it, why it's important, and what do I need to know, and of course your introduction can be more than one paragraph if there's more information in it. For example, you might put your thesis sentence and why it's important in one short paragraph, and then go into the background that I need to know before you start talking about parts 1 and parts 2. Please remember, I don't know what's in your mind, so you have to be very careful to communicate clearly. The thesis needs to be as specific as possible for you to comfortably talk about whatever your topic is. So you're going to have if you're going to cover the same thing for a very short essay, you're going to need to have a narrower topic, more specific. And if you're going to write a 7-page paper, your thesis can be a little bit broader. And let me give you an example of what one of you did on the last essay. I won't mention names, and it's perfectly okay that you did this, but I want you to learn from it too. One person said in their introduction that part 1 was more positive and part 2 was more negative. And then in the body of the paper, they wrote about the positivity in part 1 and the negativity in part 2. The kids were starving. Some of them were beaten. Deborah was sexually molested. And so it was, and technically they were correct, but it didn't give me any information because there were negative things that occurred in part 1. Henrietta died in part 1. They took cells from her without asking in part 1. So getting that general and then only dealing with the parts that fit your thesis is a way to quickly write a paper, but it's not going to get a good grade. You need to get more specific than the most general terms you can. Also, when you're writing in very, very general terms, as this was more than one of you who wrote in general terms, it makes me think that you actually didn't do the reading, that you're picking and choosing pieces out. If you have a thesis to cover a certain part of the literature, and that's going to be happening in your midterm essay, you need to cover all of it. You don't need to go into depth for all of it, but you need to cover all of it. Your thesis can't be something that's simply not true. Otherwise, why write the paper? Then you're not giving your ideas, you're simply making general statements about the paper. Okay, so if that's something that you did, get in contact with me. Let's meet and go over your paper and see what we could do to make that a better paper for your midterm. So the thesis needs to be specific to what you are writing about, and you need to consider how much space you have to write it. Lots of you are still putting in a page and a couple of lines when you really need to explain things more. Use your space when you have it. This is going to double your space. I think it's I don't remember what I said, but this is going to give you more space so you can get more specific, and you need to because you have to cover more of the literature because you have a third part now to read. And the second part of that advice is that please do not pick and choose information pick and choose information that simply fits your thesis if it's about comparing a couple of pieces of literature. Even an argumentative paper needs to look at all the mainstream areas that the paper is covering. You can't suppress information and still have an accurate, well-written paper. You have to deal with those things that don't fit in with your thesis. You have to say this person had this idea back in 1996, but now all of these people wrote this in 2012, and we're updated with our information, and therefore I go with these guys. Okay. Paragraphing. You need a topic sentence for each paragraph, and you also need to ensure that all the information you give about that topic is covered in the topic sentence. And then you have to have a concluding sentence that tells me what I'm supposed to glean from that paragraph, so now I can go to the next paragraph. Glean's one of my favorite words, so if you see it, it means to infer. So that if you're talking about part one, you can, number one, talk about the biographical parts of the novel about Henrietta. She likes to dance. She sneaks out and goes to clubs and dances. Her husband was not faithful to her. He frequently slept with other women and brought home STDs. But you need to do that in one paragraph and go on to the next idea of the next one. The next one might be the discovery of HeLa cells and that part, and how they found the right stuff to keep them in so that they stayed alive, how they learned how to mail them to other people, that kind of thing. And so that might be two, that might be three different topics. Okay? And if you have a couple of different things to cover in your topic sentence, you need to put them all in the topic sentence and then cover them one by one through paragraphing. All right? So you're covering everything you promised to cover. Stay away from hyperbole. Lots of you are using hyperbole. Henrietta Lacks not only was responsible for great innovations in medical history, but she was a major character in the fight for civil rights. She wasn't that. She wasn't either of those. Doctors did. She was just the person who was the originator of the cells that doctors then took and did the actual medical research that needed to be done for the history of medicine. And she wasn't particularly part of the civil rights movement to advance African American standing within the major culture. Her cells were, but she wasn't. So you have to be very careful about what you are presenting to your reader so that you're honest. Hyperbole does not help, and neither hyperbole nor satire nor even jokes are very good in a written paper, because I don't know what they are. Okay, even if you write ha ha after the joke, just leave them out. This is an academic paper. I'm grading you on it, so save the jokes for when you become a columnist for the New York Times and are writing funny, semi-funny columns. All right, then, let's talk a little bit about the midterm. I have, in week 4 of your Moodle page, I have given you information on how to contact the Student Writing Center. It's in the library, and you can make an appointment for that. You can make an appointment to start your paper. You can make an appointment to figure out how to organize your paper. You can make an appointment to have them read a rough draft so that you can rewrite the paper better. Whatever you decide to do, I would highly recommend that you make an appointment with the Writing Center. The one thing they can't do is write your paper because they don't know what the information is. And if you give them incorrect information, then they will give you incorrect advice. So you need to realize that they're just there to help you check your work, to help you get started. But all they're there for is to help you with technical things. You might go in there and say, is my paragraphing okay? That's an important thing. And the way I organize my papers is when I write an outline, which is the next thing you're going to do after your thesis is okayed, is I write my thesis sentence in the introduction, then everything I need to say that with the evidence underneath that. Then I know basically what I'm going to say, and I know I have evidence to back it up. Then I write the topic sentence of my second paragraph, or third if you have more than one paragraph for your intro, and start a topic sentence of my first point, and then I put underneath that the evidence I'm going to use to demonstrate that point. And this is for your final paper we're talking about now. The reason I do that is your paper needs to have evidence for everything you say about the topic. So the first thing you're going to do is introduce the topic. The second thing you're going to do is break that topic into paragraphs and give yourself the evidence you need to support that topic sentence for the paragraph. And then go to the next paragraph. If you don't have evidence to support that topic sentence, don't use that topic sentence. Don't use that paragraph. You can go find the evidence if you know that it's out there and you just didn't see it. Okay? That's why we write down all of our references beforehand and what information we're going to take from each of those references. Then you're going to place them in your paper, and you're certainly going to have the same author give you information as evidence for this topic sentence, and then the fifth topic sentence too, if it's appropriate. But you want to make sure that everything you say is supported by evidence, and that's why papers seem to take so long. You can't just say something, you have to prove it. Finally, the latter part of your paper, the last couple, 2, 3, maybe even 4, gives you your conclusion. Well, you take the evidence that you've given me in the body of the paper and you analyze it for me. You tell me what it all means. You can also conclude each part of your paper with a conclusion that summarizes the meaning of what you're saying. I don't know what your evidence is telling me. If you say that 47,000 people climb above 20,000 feet every year, I have no way to verify that. You need to tell me where you got that information. And then if you go on to tell me that half of those people suffer from lack of oxygen in climbing, you also need to tell me where you got that information. And then you need to tell me that half the people who climb mountains don't get enough air. And you've given me evidence to say this amount of people climb, this amount of people suffer, and therefore it's a huge chunk of people who don't prepare for their climbs properly. Okay, that's actually from one of the papers. I won't say the name again. All right. I was going to talk about the midterm. I don't know if I covered that enough. Your midterms are due this Sunday. So if you haven't started that, you really need to get on top of it. Because you need to have a well-organized paper for your midterm. It's going to count for 2 of your writings. So you need to take more time with it. If you sit down on the computer and start to write it the night before you have to turn it in, I can guarantee you will not do well on that paper. And I'm sorry to say that, but I've been grading papers for a long time. And it takes me a long time to grade a bad paper because I want to give you feedback. It's a lot easier to grade good papers. So please write a good paper so I can have a Saturday off finally. Okay? If you have any other questions, you can contact me either by text or by email, and we can arrange a time face to face if it's something you really need. And please, once I send your email out that gives you the link to the meeting times, then go ahead and fill that in. And to get to the meeting, you'll be using the link that's at the bottom of all my emails. That's my kind of personal Zoom site, so I can give you all the same number. And you just check in when it's not there. If you check in for any meeting that we have and I'm not online yet, please text me right away, because I usually get there early. For example, we don't have a meeting in class. For every time I meet with a student, I click in about 10 minutes. I open the meeting about 10 minutes early, so I know that someone will be there. So if I'm not there when you check in, please make sure that you text me right away. I don't mind reminders. This is the longest lecture I've given, so I'm going to stop now. If you have questions, please contact me. If you're worried about how you're doing in the class, please contact me. I have not graded I probably won't be grading your forum contributions till the end of the term. Just make sure you get a couple of them in every week. And if you miss 1 week, get a couple more of them in the next week. That's fine. Otherwise, keep on trucking. Make that right. Really put in effort to do your best work for this midterm, because that's going to be the basis, the foundation for writing your final paper. All right. Thank you very much, and I will be seeing you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.